Dead creatures, myths and legends. Among the cemetery creatures, or the so-called undead, a special niche is occupied by the undead. Huge, fearless and strong, they are the embodiment of the primal horror that one feels at night in a cemetery. Different peoples call them differently, but in almost all myths they appear separately from the living dead, or as it is more common to call the latter, zombies. The main differences with zombies. The living dead have one thing in common: their bodies used to belong to one person. With the deceased, however, this is not the case. Although they look like people, they are not, and it's hard to tell that they were. Under the influence of the energy of the cemetery, several human bodies can merge into one, forming the most bizarre creatures. The bone hounds alone are worth a lot. But the undead are the most hideous representatives of the undead mentioned in mythology. Dead men are characterized by the fact that the cemetery fuses not only a few human bodies, but also merges their souls, not allowing the latter to leave the land and find eternal rest. The undead are superficially similar to humans. Sometimes they are mistakenly called zombies, less often ghouls. But if you take a good look at the deceased, you can see that his facial features, where the skin and muscles are not rotted, are severely distorted. And similar abnormalities of proportions can be observed throughout the body. Different lengths of legs and arms, different eyes, if they are preserved. Even the surviving hair on the head may have different colors. Such a gruesome fusion creates a cemetery for its own needs. As is not difficult to guess, generated by cemetery energy, these creatures live only in cemeteries and rarely leave their territory, and if they do, then a short distance, literally 100 meters from the burial ground. Reasons and purposes of existence. Sometimes cemeteries accumulate such an energy of death that they begin to come alive in a sense. Such cemeteries are called awakened cemeteries, and there is a very high probability of meeting all kinds of undead. But only with the appearance of the first undead can we say that the cemetery is truly awakened. After all, these creatures, spawned from what is buried in the ground, exist for one purpose only: to keep the cemetery safe from uninvited guests. And then comes the realization of the horrifying fact: living for the cemetery, uninvited guests. True, there are exceptions, because the dead in a sense the cemetery keepers, and if a person came to check on someone, the dead will not show themselves, but allow the living to walk peacefully among the dead. But if a man wanders aimlessly around the burial ground, or worse, has come to destroy the grave, death in the clutches of the mortal man is guaranteed. And then a new problem arises: the dead man who killed a person is less controllable and can turn into a raging monster. Physical qualities. If it is considered that the creatures of the undead are very strong, then about the undead we can say only that a slight push of the hand of this creature can split a granite tombstone, and a serious blow without problems brings down a solid wall of the crypt. On the other hand, the undead have the least agility and speed of all such creatures. It's not difficult to run away from a dead creature, so much so that you can simply walk at a brisk pace to prevent it from catching up. But the intelligence of these creatures is enough to attack under the most favorable conditions, or throw the offender in pursuit of something heavy and weighty. Mortals' mythology. Deceased creatures never feed, they are fed by the cemetery, so such a creature simply kills its victim and leaves the body to be devoured by other cemetery predators. Legends also mention that mortals often take on the role of protecting invited people. For example, the ghost of a dead mother appeared to a person in a dream and he came to the awakened cemetery, protecting those other undead. All but a few species of creatures in the cemetery retreat at the sight of the undead, or at the sound of their strange, painfully distorted voice. Forever sealed away in a cemetery, these souls, unattended and unmonitored by their kin, are ideal material for the creation of the undead, for whom no barriers are impassable and no masters exist. They are cared for and protected by the cemetery itself, which destroys them and gives them their long-awaited freedom.